And then also, I want to introduce a good friend of mine, John Oberg, who is an animal activist, social influencer, local Michigander. So he's going to chat a little bit about his activism. So yeah, man, thanks.
I don't think I can compete with those farm animal sounds. But it is great to be here with all you lovely people. It is so awesome. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, it sounds really weird for the speaker. I think Dan can attest to that. Hear myself echoing in the back, but we got this. Yeah, it's awesome to be here with such amazing individuals like yourselves to come together in these kinds of events and form community. I think community is such an integral part about creating a more compassionate world. And so we can have all the philosophy we want, we can have all the vegan food that we want, but if we don't have community, then we're lacking a really big, key, core, integral part of advancing the ball for farm animals. So please give yourselves a round of applause for being awesome people here for the animals. Awesome. And so my name is John Oberg. I am a Michiganian or Michigander. Who says Michigander? Who says Michiganian? So Michigander? Michiganian? Wow, I'm the only person. Hey, thank you. Thank you. Gotta have faith. So yeah, I am a Michiganian. I have not lived here for a while though. I grew up in Detroit. In the surrounding area. I was born in Detroit, grew up in the surrounding areas, traveled a bunch and stuff, and now I live in DC. But Dan invited me to speak to all of you, and I thought I'd make a little trip out of it. So I am back in my home state, and it feels awesome. For anybody from out of town, just a warning, winter is coming, so brace yourselves. But what I do nowadays is I focus on social media, and that's actually how I met Dan, was through speaking at the Animal Rights Conference in DC and in Los Angeles, and we've spoken together multiple times, and it's always a good time. And the reason that Dan is speaking on social media is because he's so damn good at it, and Barn Sanctuary is so amazing on social media. Who here follows Barn Sanctuary on social media? Give them a round of applause, please, because they deserve it. Barn Sanctuary is one of the leading animal advocacy organizations on social media, using social media really well and really using it to its full potential. Just a few days ago, I was looking at their videos on Facebook, and I saw that one has 71 million views. 71 million. And so it is really incomprehensible how much good that is doing for animals. And Dan and the Barn Sanctuary team are just absolutely killing it at every level. And so I'm really honored to be here speaking to all of you at such an amazing, incredible place. So now usually when I give this talk, it's my words. It's my words, it's the things that I say that make people want to, be a more compassionate person or eat more compassionately or get their behavior to match the ethics that they already have. Well, today is a little bit different because I am competing with dozens and dozens of incredible farm animals. If you just look into the eyes of these animals, they're telling stories. Each one of these animals has a unique story that is compelling to any individual out there. And again, Barn Sanctuary does such a phenomenal job of getting these animals' stories out to the general public. And that's one of the things that I think we need to do as effective animal advocates is get these individual stories. There's a quote out there that is, it goes something like, one homicide is a tragedy, a million is a statistic. And right now, the farm animals have it pretty bad. They are dying in the billions. It's a number that most of us can't even comprehend. If you say a million or a billion to someone, it doesn't even sound that different, but it is drastically different, and farm animals have it pretty bad for this reason. But that's where sanctuaries like Barn Sanctuary come into play. You can have a single animal story change people's lives forever. So many people who I know who have become more compassionate in the way that they're behaving and eating. The many vegans I know, animal activists I know, have changed because of just a few or even just a single animal out there. And now, I grew up an animal lover. My mom really instilled that sense of compassion to me, and I will always be so eternally grateful for her doing that. And there's a few stories I'd like to share in relation to that. I guess when I was a baby, so I was about this big, my mom used to tell me the story, and I don't remember it because I was like a few months old, I guess. But I couldn't walk, but I could crawl. And I was on one side of the living room, and then my cat named Muse, she was an old black cat. She was awesome, with a little white chest. She was rolling around on the couch, and then she fell off. And I kind of panicked, and I crawled over as fast as I possibly could, and I just started petting her. And I didn't know if that was, would make her feel better or whatever, but I guess it's my instinct. But that was because of the compassion that my mom instilled in me when I was younger. And then, fast forward a few years, when I was in elementary school in the 90s, my mom and I was very close with my mom. I was definitely a mama's boy. Anybody else out here mama's boys? Yeah? Right on, guys. Right on, this guy. So I was definitely a mama's boy. Grew up very close with her, and we were pretty poor. And so to make ends meet, my mom and I would go to Stony Creek Metro Park. And you guys all know what Stony Creek is, right? Or Metro Parks? Yeah, and her and I, we would go there before my class in the morning, so probably 5:30, 6 in the morning, and we would collect cans out of trash cans for the 10-cent deposit. And on a good day, we would make maybe $10, $20, and that helped pay the bills. And a lot of people might say that sucks to do as a kid, but it was a really good bonding experience for my mom and I. But beyond just having a good bonding experience for my mom and I, when we would be there in the morning, the place would be silent, just silent. There'd be mist on the grass, and it used to be dark out. But the only others that we would see there are deer. Deer would come out, and over time, these deer, in a way, became our friends. They became our associates. They became, individuals that we looked at that really brought us joy. And my mom taught me compassion, and so we obviously felt very compassionate towards these deer. Then, after a few years of collecting bottles out of trash cans and making a little bit of extra money, we unfortunately got news that Stony Creek was going to have a cull. They were going to kill off a certain percentage of the deer. And my mom and I were heartbroken. These deer had no understanding of, they had been living there for generations and generations. They did not understand the concept of having just random members of their family picked off. And so we were so saddened by this, but being a 10-year-old kid, I probably would have just sat there and done nothing. But my mom stood up. My mom said this is not something that's okay with us. So for weeks, day in and day out, we stood at the entrances and the exits of the Stony Creek Metro Park with signs that said, boycott the deer hunt, being cruel isn't cool. My mom had all the cool sayings. And it meant a lot to us, or it meant a lot to me to kind of experience that. And then I even spoke at the Department of Natural Resources meeting, and I was super shy, and I think all I probably uttered was, "Please don't hurt the deer." I'm pretty sure it's actually literally what I said. But the deer hunt unfortunately continued, and we were heartbroken that it continued, but it was what it was. And that experience that my mom and I shared was an experience that taught me that when there's injustice going on in the world, you don't just turn a blind eye. You stand up to it. You do something for it. And there is one good thing from the story in terms of our actual impact. One night we went into the park when they were hunting, and my mom had this wild idea, and she said, "Just do this with me, okay?" And I said, "Whatever you say, Mom." She started howling, and so we howled for minutes and minutes to warn the deer that danger was on its way. And we ended up finding out that the next day, hardly any deer were killed. And so these kinds of things really taught me compassion. And I want to share with you one more story about my relation with animals when I was younger. When I was about 8 years old, my mom and I got this cat, this gray cat, long-haired, kind of like a Maine Coon, but definitely not like a purebred Maine Coon or anything. His name is. My mom asked me, "What do I want to name him?" I named him Scoop. I don't know why I named him Scoop. It's a really weird thing for an 8-year-old kid to do, but I named him Scoop. And him and I were like brothers. Like I'm an only child. You couldn't tell by the whole mama's boy thing. So I'm an only child, and so he was like my sibling in a way. I would hang out with him every day. For some reason, he really liked pipe cleaners. So my mom and I would go to Meijer, and we'd go to the tobacco section, and I would buy a bunch of pipe cleaners regularly, and the guy always gave me such a weird look. But it's because my cat liked him. And so I would make him like these toys out of pipe cleaners. Anyways, we had this bonding experience for many years. Fast forward about 13 years. I was 21 years old. And I was traveling around traveling around Europe. I backpacked Europe for like 3 months. And I got a call one day to notify me that Scoop had cancer. And I was so heartbroken. My heart just sank. I just assumed that when a cat has cancer, that means they're going to die from it. And I almost got on the flight home right then. Then I found out a little bit more about the cancer. And it turns out that the cancer just developed in one of his paws, or in one of his toes. So they could do surgery. So they removed one of his toes. And then a few weeks went by. We were thinking optimistically, and then the cancer came back into one of his other toes. And so we had another surgery. And a few weeks go by, and it turns out the cancer had spread to his paw. And they can't just remove a paw, because they'll try to walk on like the nub, and so they have to actually remove the whole limb. And again, I was so sad for Scoop. I felt like, oh my God, you're gonna be 3 limbs? Like, this is so sad for you. And then when he got out of the surgery and came out of the anesthesia, he just hopped around like nothing was wrong. It was absolutely awesome to see, and really made me so happy. And he lived for like 5 more years as a tripod, and he was awesome. And then took me years till I realized something. I realized that if you should be concerned about cats like Muse, or deer in a park, or cats like Scoop, you should also be concerned about animals like Tracy the chicken, or Penny the pig, or Mike the cow. Because these animals feel pain, fear, emotions, just like those animals that we have at home and that we consider friends or acquaintances, or the thing I have to run up to at a party and pet. Those animals, farm animals, feel just like those animals. And so it's actually a total coincidence that I'm here on this day, but 10 years ago today, I actually went vegan. So today is my 10-year veganiversary, which is just wild that Dan asked me to speak on the day that happened to be my 10-year veganiversary. And I've got to tell you guys, it's the best decision I've ever made in my life to stop eating animal products. I didn't think I could do it. For many years before I actually went vegan, I did not think I would actually be able to pull it off. But when I finally did it, I still thought I wouldn't be able to do it. I thought it would last a few weeks, maybe a few months, but 10 years later, I have not died of protein deficiency or anything else like that. I have made it, I've survived, and I've thrived. And this is something that anybody can do. And when I say anybody, you might be thinking, anybody, but not me. Well, I've got to tell you, I thought the same thing. Just less than a year before I went vegan, I ate 39 chicken wings in one meal. 39 chicken wings, which means I'd sentenced like over a dozen chickens to their death in one single meal. So if I can make the change, absolutely anybody can make the change. And this is not about some radical new way of thinking. It's just getting your behavior to match the ethics that you already have. Because if you care about cats and dogs and other animals you share your home with, that care, compassion, respect, and consideration should be projected onto farm animals as well. And I want to let you know that it's a spectrum, okay? We got standard American diet here and veganism here. Moving along that spectrum, any move along that spectrum is a move in the right direction and is something that will make a difference for animals. So whether it's one meatless meal a day, meatless Monday, weekday vegetarian, weekend vegan, or fully vegan, all of it is going to make a difference. And if you have the respect and love and compassion for cats and dogs, and you have the love and compassion for these animals here, let what you choose to put on your plate reflect that as well. Thank you.